Welcome to another episode of the GameDev Show from our beautiful homes. I have my lovely colleague Rufina with me. Actually, they are going to lead through most of the episode tonight. Later, going to be joined by our wonderful Deborah. So you just have to put up with me for 1 hour. It's great to have you on the show tonight. Rufina, how are you doing so far?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, good. I was just saying that you should be the lead on this show, and then, bam.
Yeah,
you actually
boom. Yeah, but still, I'm gone after 1 hour. So
yeah.
I mean, officially, I'm only your sidekick for now. Before I'm replaced by someone way more capable, and you will find that out pretty quickly tonight. That compared to last week's show, this one is definitely going to be quite different. But we have wonderful guests for you. We have Dominic Shaw from Yuki, who's spearheading the Raise the Game pledge. And Robin Gray, co-founder and editor at Gaming Magazine, both UK-based, both going to be speakers at our wonderful Call for Change Summit at the end of February 25th and 26th. We're going to tell you a lot about that. Probably also during the show because we're working closely together. We're going to tell you about the Gaming Awards that we are going to host in 2 weeks instead of our own Game Dev Show, because the Gaming Magazine is doing the Gaming Awards on the 24th of February. And we thought it might be, it's perfect timing for us. It just fits together with our own summit so perfectly. We said this is probably one of those once in a lifetime opportunities. So I think this is really, really cool. We're gonna do that. We're gonna talk a lot about Gaming Magazine per se, and of course we're gonna check out what Robin has to tell us about their new project that they're about to launch, Industry Gaming. So just so you know, Dominic can only join us for 30 minutes today. We're going to focus a bit more on what Dominic has to tell us before he has to leave. But then we have another 1.5 hours with Robin and Deborah and Rufina. And I'm going to be out and enjoying what they all have to tell you and talk about. So let's say hi to the chat. I actually need to check my phone to see the chat. Rufina, please take over for the moment.
I love the pace.
While I work on my Don Corleone impression,
Yes, what? I couldn't follow. I'm sorry.
Cool. That's off to a good start.
It's a good start, huh? We were supposed to say hello to the chat, right? No.
Yes.
It's just so much information. I mean, I'm really looking forward to talk to Robin again. Also to Dominic. Amazing. We had this. I had only one call with each of them. Sorry, and it was so interesting. I'm so inspiring, and I really love what they're doing. So I'm really happy that we have the chance to work together for the Call for Change Summit, and I do hope that we will be able to work together throughout the year. Let's see if we manage to, from our side, to actually have the manpower to push for that.
Yeah.
It's also cool to be with Deborah tonight and with you, Nico. I mean, without Stefan, yes, finally. Without the
see, that's how I wanted to introduce myself. I wanted to introduce myself as Stefan and check if people noticed. But yeah, I screwed that one up. Dear chat, did you notice?
I mean, we can all pretend. I pretend to be Nico. You pretend to be Stefan. It just sounds wrong.
Do you? I mean, hello, all you beautiful people out there. Dana, Michael, Astrid. Who else do we have in the chat? So far?
I'm going to do the same as you.
937, nice to see you again. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Like I said, I mean, this show is definitely going to be way different than the other ones, but I think it's not going to be any less interesting. Especially checking out the Gaming Awards. Um,
Yeah.
the Obviously the focus of what they do at Gaming Magazine is very much focused on topics that revolve around the LGBTQ community, but just in case you might think this isn't, what I don't know, touches your own interest, there are a lot of things that are super worth checking out, especially when it comes to the nominees, and probably some of the winners. Just so you know, we will be live during the Call for Change Summit on the 25th and 26th. So we start at 10 in the morning, and I think we're going to be live until like 9 p.m. in the evening. Basically, like we did during devcom, so a lot of program coming up. The meta topic will be the same. We will talk a lot about diversity, inclusion, accessibility, topics that are really very dear to all of our hearts. This is why we organized this summit in the first place. We have lots of amazing speakers, and I implore you, the summit is for free, so you can attend, you can register, and even if you might not be part of the games industry yourself, it might still be worth checking out, because this is a topic that doesn't have like it's not something that ends with the games industry. This is a topic that is worthwhile talking about, whatever industry you're in, whatever you do. And our main focus from the beginning was, we do not want to preach to the choir. If you are interested in learning more about the subjects and educate yourself and engage in fruitful discussions with other people who already started their initiatives and projects and are putting a lot of work, amazing work into that, just give it a try. Check it out. Join some of the panels, the fireside chats, and learn more about it, or simply meet amazing people. We will, however, stick to the topic of the summit here on Twitch as well, but we also said we're going to do it from a more entertaining perspective, which means we will primarily check out games that stand out due to their diverse characters or storylines, or we're going to check out games that have outstanding accessibility features. So we're going to do a lot of Let's Plays. We're going to hopefully put in a couple of dev interviews here and there. We're gonna have guests from Quebec again, primarily Montreal. We're gonna have a Raise the Game pledge showcase, most likely on Friday, the 26th, for about 2.5 hours. That is still yet to be defined. Another 2-hour block, roughly, with Robin, talking about the actual winners of the Gaming Awards. And we are so much looking forward to that. So be sure to mark that on your calendar. And oh my God, Cottonmouth.
Okay. I mean, to be honest, I kind of understand why you saw like bam, bam, bam. You're having very rough days lately, right? Working until I think you said 11:30 p.m., something like that. So
yeah, I think some of my calls were, like at 1 a.m. It was totally worth it, but that's the problem with the time zones, This is like, I had amazing calls with two people from Melbourne, one representative of Girl Geek Academy, super cool project that aims at, for example, educating women and girls in the programming and coding sector, like X million girls, women, until the year, I think, like 2025. We will learn more about that in detail during the summit. I think that's really amazing. And we're going to have Paulina Sami from Dragon Bear Studios. If you don't know the studio, you might know the game that they're working on, Enchanted, like Enchanted, just with an INN at the beginning. And
they also, on the award, right? They also had been nominated at the Gaming Awards, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I am not 100% sure anymore. The funny thing was that this was one of those situations where they actually reached out to us while we were, I don't know, like 1 or 2 days before that, we were talking about exactly that game. And this is one of those moments where you feel like this was meant to come
It's a
together.
call. You know, I was gonna say God. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that.
Anyway.
I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna shut up because I'm cutting Nico, and then he's losing his IDs.
Oh no,
But
no,
yeah,
no!
yeah.
You actually just
We had
give me
several time
room
of
to
those,
breathe,
several
because
moments
that's
of
what I
those
often forget.
when we're like, oh, we just talked about you, and bam, this connection is made, or
Yeah.
bam, this person answers us on LinkedIn, or oh, this game, and there's a lot of moments like this where we're like, oh fuck, it's so crazy, what's happening with this momentum. But yeah, I don't know. It's really empowering. Somehow, I don't know for you, but for me, it feels like, oh, we are on the right track somehow. Then if people like self-mind, like and think alike, I don't know. For me, it means something. I don't know, but maybe I'm just putting meaning somewhere where there is none.
Yeah.
But I like it.
I mean, I do think the greatest experience so far for me personally. I mean, we talked about that. You know, this is like when you look at me, I'm not, you know, like the definition of diversity. You know, those I'm still, you know, in charge of putting up a program like that, and the whole process so far has been a huge learning experience for me just as well. You know, it's to a degree it is exhausting, because there's so much input that you have to deal with and that you try to include in your daily routines, you know. And it's just like doing sports, like when you try to create muscle memory to a degree, it's the same, you know. But
I like the way you put it. I think it's really nice. It's really nice metaphor. It's really exhausting when you start doing that work of looking into yourself and looking at your own privileges and on your own bias, which is unconscious very often, and rethinking or retrying to deconstruct some of your behavior, some of your thinking, and to construct new ones that are much more empathic or more welcoming and inclusive. It's very hard work. Yeah, it's tiring mentally, physically. It's also sometimes very demotivating, and you very also. I mean, when I did that work, and I'm still doing it like all the time. Sometimes you get disappointed about yourself. You realize things, and you're like, oh fuck, I haven't seen this blind spot. I still have that, or I still think this way, and you just get angry, and so yeah, it's hard, but we have to do it. So I mean, I'm really happy. And it's funny because I mean we're used to work together, Nico, right, since 2 years, and I'm really enjoying working together, even though sometimes it's not always the easiest one, because we are strong minds sometimes, like but I really enjoy working with you on this call for change. It was really nice, and we had a lot of exchanges, and sometimes personal, and yeah, it's very like it's bring us together somehow.
Wait a second, I have an annoying cat here and I need to shut her up. Hey, tripod, come on. Okay, don't.
I was saying something emotional, likewise. Man. Dude.
What? What? Huh? What?
Yeah, nothing. I was just praising you, but that's okay.
I don't. Is it just me? I sometimes have the feeling that you're breaking up a little. Is it the microphone? I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's my internet connection. I have no idea. But yes. Just to get back to what you just said is yeah. Likewise. I mean, this is like it's sometimes become really emotional and heated sometimes, but I can only give that back. I mean, it's a learning process, you know, an ongoing one, and I couldn't actually wish for a better colleague to work on this summit with. Oh yes. Okay. Now enough with the pleasantries.
Okay. Next topic. We're diving into the melodramatic stuff.
Oh, yes. Oh, Jesus Christ. There was something that I actually wanted to say, and I have no idea. Let me just. watching, you know the drill. If you have any questions for either one of our guests once they join our show, be sure to ask your questions. That's what we're here for, right? Or whatever. We're gonna, I think, yeah, like I said, we're gonna check out all the projects later that both Dom and Robin are involved in, and I'm really looking forward to that. What else can I say? I mean, yeah, we could actually also use this opportunity to simply walk you through the upcoming shows that we have planned so far. Obviously, there's not gonna be a vertical slice tomorrow. Just so you know, it's gonna be a bi-weekly show. So we're gonna have more info on what awaits you next Thursday. Or does Astrid?
And also we just learned today that tomorrow Michael from the Real Hellcat was supposed to do a tutorial, and he's kind of busy, so we're kind of postponing everything to the next week. So the first episode about Unity is going to happen on the I forgot the 18th, 19th of February. I forgot the date. Wait.
This should be the 18th. 17th is the Wednesday.
Yeah. 18th. And I mean, we can. Nico, I have a question for you regarding the call for change.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I do.
No, don't get greedy now.
No, don't worry. It's an easy one. From all the discussion you had, from all the topics, all the speakers that you had been in contact with, which one really stand out and really touched you on a personal level? Not so much about in terms of like you as a head of program, but you as Nico. Which one did really was speaking to you and you could relate and be like, oh shit, this is something I would like that we to dig into.
That is a toughie. I mean, not only because the topics I mean, we talked about that a lot. From all the topic blocks that we have, for example, the block on empowerment. You know, this is something that kind of like fits into every other topic that we have in the program, because it's sort of like the meta, the umbrella topic. You know, once you enable people to get access or to do something they might otherwise not be able to do, as soon as you achieve that, you empower them. So this is like, you know, why I said this is everything that is in regards to representation and empowerment. This is like it overshadows the whole program. I think what stuck with me a lot was when I talked to Felicia the first time. I mean, first of all, they're super cool. It's so funny talking to them. I think like we talked for 1.5 hours, and 5 minutes of those 1.5 hours were about actual business or the summit. Also, one of the reasons why I definitely wanted them as the keynote speaker for the second day. And one of the fields that they've been really active in, it's not only accessibility. Felicia is a accessibility advocate from Finland, visually impaired themselves, and but also been working as a moderator for probably every social platform in some sort of way. I think currently it's mostly Reddit Europe that you can imagine, and doing that for I think almost 17 years. And it's tough. I mean, you hear from so many people that work in community management, you know, forum moderation. They see things, you know, that some people should never get in touch with, you know, things that should probably not exist, the ugliness of the internet. But something that they said was, for example, yeah, we all evolved as people, in one way or another. And no matter what we do now, no matter what path we are on now, we've probably been doing a lot of weird and probably wrong stuff 10 years ago, you know, because that's part of the you know, of growth. I still do think, and this is probably one of the things that I miss nowadays the most, that everyone makes mistakes. Most people who point fingers at others are just not willing to accept that they are just making their own mistakes. You know, it's just so much easier to point fingers at other people, you know, especially on the internet when you're anonymous. And but too many people don't even think about self-reflection. And but that's part of the growing process, you know. As soon as you actually, but I think the most important thing is that at some point you actually do your part and try to become a better person, and that is something that accompanies you from the day that you're actually self-conscious to probably the day you die. You know, there is always room for improvement, but on the other hand, it so often doesn't do anyone any good, you know, pointing fingers at things that happened 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago. There are things that need to be considered. There are things that we need to be conscious about. But those things hopefully are in the past, and we are improving from where others left off. That is what growth and improvement is, you know, because if there wasn't room for improvement, we would already be in an ideal situation.
So
and
it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of looking in the past and understanding what happened to not reproduce the same mistakes. I personally, like, something that I tend to do as a person. And but actually, for me, in terms of like growing and like deconstructing some of my own bias and some of my unconscious, like some of the stuff that had been socialized, I needed to learn to read about those things in the past. I need to understand the roots of those, where it was coming from, and how it evolved, and to be what it is now. And I found it fascinating, and for me, it was really helpful to do that work. And I do it as much as I can with my books, with the movies that I'm watching, the documentaries, the people that I'm following on social media, who tends to kind of like go in the past and say, "Hi, okay, so this construct comes from here, and this is actually how we built it as a society, and it's how it came." And for me, it's so useful. So I don't perceive change without that aspect of just going back and just thinking about this, and of course we shouldn't say, oh, it's like pointing the finger and say that person did bad. It's not so much about this. It's much about understanding how we came, what's the process, and the choices we made as a society then, which were based on some thoughts actually, and behavior and experiences. But yeah, pointing fingers is never the right way for change.
I think
for sure.
One of the things that has always been really important to me, be it in my private life or wherever, I do think that especially if we expect people to become better persons, like I said, everyone makes mistakes, and we probably make those mistakes on a daily basis, and some are more grave than others, but there needs to a degree. I do think there are certain limits. They should never be overstepped. But to a degree, I think there needs to be room for, it sounds so cliche, for redemption. You know, people need to have a chance to prove that they can actually better themselves, that they learn from their mistakes. It's, you know, like you say, this is like one mistake is no mistake 2 mistakes are 1 mistake too many, something like that, you know. But yeah, that was something. I mean, that also meant, especially, you know, this is like in my private, that also meant that you will face what's the word for it? You will get disappointed, and you probably will even feel betrayed in some ways or some situations, you know. But whatever happened, because I always expected others to do me the same courtesy, to give people a second chance, you know, and that so often I have the feeling has become some sort of no-go nowadays. And again, you know, it also depends on the actual mistake. But you know, like I said, it's so easy to point fingers and you know, condemn people for what they did and never give them a chance for redemption, or they can actually do better and learn from their mistakes.
So it's such a big topic. I mean, like, if you put it into violence, like sexual violence, or violence within a couple, like, or violence towards, like, police violence, like, sometimes I do understand what people say. This person hasn't a second chance anymore. I mean, when you had been in a situation where someone repeatedly had violated you psychologically, like, or physically, there's no.
But this is why I said, you know, this is like, it depends on how often people repeat the same mistake over and over again, without, you know, showing no signs of remorse. And I think, again, context in so many ways is key. Every single person on this earth has their own story, has their own background, and it's easier to just, you know, put a stamp on people without even trying to know what's going on, you know. But to a degree, imagine you end up in a situation like that for whatever reason, and nobody gives you the chance to either explain yourself or, you know, get to know what probably happened. Because, you know, it's like we have this tendency of judging people and pretending like, oh, we know it all. And I don't know. I think it's like I said, don't get me wrong. This is like, there is a limit to tolerance. It's like, what do they call it? The tolerance paradox. There are some things that are not to be tolerated, but but people have shown over and over again that they can actually make up for their mistakes and might actually, you know, become figureheads for movements for something better, you know. That might be people, even though late, or, you know, after they've done terrible things, for example, from the right-wing scene, that actually at some point and there are figureheads also in Germany who are now working proactively against these scenes. They try to educate people so they don't make the same mistakes as they did, you know, because they know that they've done terrible things. And sometimes it's just so blurry. It's a super heavy topic.
Those are questions that we need to ask. You know, that we can't escape from that dialogue and the discourse. We can't just like close our eyes and just like look behind or on the side. We have to look. We have to talk about this. And there are difficult topics. Yes, difficult talk about race, about racism, about sexism, about homophobia, about transphobia. It is hard because it puts. For some people, it's exposing. For some other people, it is abuse. For some other people, it's like attacking. But it brings emotion on the table, and we have to deal with those.
Exactly. This is a very good point, and I do think that people need to be aware that topics that are worth talking about are so often not easy to talk about. they might be really intimate. This is like, you might, like you said, feel that you're exposing yourself, and it takes a lot of courage. But the change that needs to be done, the change that has real impact, never comes easy, and that never comes overnight. It's an ongoing process, but you need to do a first step, be it in your personal life or be it on a larger scale. And
for me, it's really like, I can totally relate to that, because I was very much in this kind of situation a couple of years ago, and even maybe even a year ago, when I didn't want to come out as non-binary. For me, it was a very difficult step to take in terms of my work environment, and it took me a lot of time, a lot of discussion, support from my colleagues. Because it's being visible for me means being vulnerable, and I never wanted that, and I was always trying to be like, to block it away. But also, one of the things actually that made me decide to be more visible and more out to speak about this was, first, of course, the support of my colleagues and my working place, which was of course extremely helpful.
Yeah.
But also about the fact that I was like, I have this privilege of being in that position, in this company, in this particular job. I am who I am. Maybe some other people can relate to that, and I was like, I have a obligation to be visible almost. I was like, I needed to come out, and maybe it will help some other people. So that was kind of the idea behind. And I just got the information as you, Nico, that our guests are ready.
Yes, and just let me check the chat again. I'm sorry, because as we're doing it from home, okay, cool. Juliana is already on it. Sorry if it takes us a while to actually check the chat here and there. Hi, Miss Terry, greetings. Loki loves, thank you for posting the actual link to the summit. And let's say hi now to, oh my God, you can see my socks.
I was going to say, we can see your socks. I was going to say, is there a hole?
Let's say hi to our two wonderful guests, Dominic and Robin Gray.
Woo! Hello.
Hey, fellas. Hello. How you doing?
Good. You?
Yeah, alive and kicking.
Absolutely, all good on my side.
That's wonderful to hear. How's the quarantine been treating you so far?
I mean, for me, it's been, because I'm naturally a hermit, so it's kind of been, I've been able to just be like, this is every day. But obviously, there's the aspect of not being able to openly go meet people. That's probably the only thing. But what was really nice last week is that I got to see my nephew. Obviously, social distancing, mask on, but it was just really nice to actually see my nephew. He's so adorable. And what's even better is I'm a fan of a certain franchise called Transformers. He's into it now, so I'm like, I'm going to make some videos for him. So lockdown has its negatives, but there's always a positive somewhere.
You just got to look for them, you got to focus on the positive things.
To stay sane.
Absolutely.
Robin,
so,
even though it takes you years to find those positives, you can. Although I say that, we're only about to hit a year, so maybe saying S on the end of years is too soon.
Oh, we'll see. I mean, we're aliens. How about that? I mean, didn't
Asteroid.
I mean, this was one of the I think funniest news last year, right? I mean, this is like when they put up those memes, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and then Australia was on fire, and then we had UFO sightings confirmed by the government, and then we had that, and then we had that. So nobody really cared. It's like when a whole year in retrospective looks way more chaotic and unbelievable than the plot Terminator, that's gotta say a lot. But
I'm not sure many people had insurrection down for their first 4 weeks of American history either. I mean, that's just like, if 2021 wasn't sort of crazy enough, then how about we'll just chuck a bit of insurrection in there. So no, I'm ready for asteroids. I'm ready for some sort of
zombie attack,
invasion of zombies or something like. But as Dom said, like if there's one group of society that's built for lockdown, it's the gamers. Like it's literally what we do anyway. So there we go.
Yeah, for you it might be quarantine. For me, it's just another Saturday. It's
yeah, exactly.
So what?
Exactly.
Okay. But I mean, zombies. Zombies are still on the table.
We had that chat with Nico, and I remember I think it was beginning of the year. Like yes, on the 4th or the 5th of January, he was saying, "I will die to have a beer with someone outside." Remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're a gamer, a huge gamer, so it doesn't.
No, I think I bridge that gap somewhere between I'm a gamer that enjoys sitting on my sofa and playing games, watching TV, movies, etc., especially with the wonderful things coming up on Disney Plus. But also, yeah, I mean, I'm dying to get out and just go and see somebody and sort of hugs. I miss hugs.
Yes. If I was an alien, I'd be a face hugger.
I just don't want to imagine
without
that,
the impregnating part. Yeah, just the hugging.
Well, okay.
Hey, I'm glad we got that clear.
I mean, we've been here like 6 minutes and we're already into this. We've got 2 hours to go. Where the hell is this going?
Don't worry. I'm gonna leave together with Dom at 5 because then I'm gonna be replaced by Deborah. So you only have to put up with me for another 25 minutes. That being said, though, Robert, we have a lot of time this afternoon together with you to talk about all the projects that you're involved in, all the lovely things that we're going to do together. And I hope there's going to be so much more in the future. I'm already excited. So as Dom has to leave us in also roughly 25 minutes, if it's okay for you, we'd like to focus a bit more on Dom in the beginning, talk about the Raise the Game pledge, the stuff that we're gonna learn from him during the summit, the plans that you have. Raise the Game pledge actually celebrated or is about to celebrate its first anniversary. So
technically we hit the mark of official 1 year on the 4th of Feb, but we're making sure that the whole month of February is celebrating Raise the Game, which
I remember going to the launch event of Raise the Game this time last year because this was like I think it was the last time, because I live in Birmingham. It was the last time I actually went to London, pre-lockdowns and everything else. That part of that few days that I was down London for Raise the Game, and that was literally the last I saw of pretty much everyone.
Oh my goodness, we're almost hitting the year mark, but it's also important for me to note that as part of the Raise the Game anniversary, I am 100% and the rest of our team 100% supporting Robin's activities, especially with his Gayming Awards coming up, which I am very lucky to have said that I was a judge for. So
cool.
Everyone, you're going to get such a treat later when he gets to delve with you with all the information about that. I don't know if delve is the right word or even an English word, but
we can delve. Let's delve.
Because you should definitely, take the time and tell us more about what the Raise the Game pledge is for the people that are watching. Tell us a bit more about how you actually ended up in this position, spearheading, it's right. If you're currently primarily in charge now of organizing the Raise the Game pledge, tell us about what it is. And just so you know, I briefly mentioned that in the beginning, during the summit, we not only have you, both of you, involved as speakers during the actual summit, which I'm very much looking forward to. And I got new information for you, but you will get that before the end of the week. No business talk right here. But we are also planning 2 wonderful showcases, both with Robin, which is more focused on the Gayming Awards, because then we can actually talk about the winners, as well as the showcase that we are planning with you, Dom, in regards to the Raise the Game pledge. So this is going to just, all of you people out there, just, keep your calendar free for Friday, especially Friday. And so I'm
Not
gonna.
this Friday, the last Friday of February. Just in case people are like, where is this content? And it's just like, it's not that Friday. But no, absolutely. So just to give everyone who's not aware of the pledge, Raise the Game Diversity Pledge is an holistic approach to tackling and champion equality, diversity, and inclusion within the games industry. I work for UKI, which is the UK trade body for video games. So we facilitate and manage the pledge, but we have our 5 founding partners who gave us the ability through budget and finance to make the pledge possible this time last year, which, and again, hopefully going forward as well, who are EA, Facebook Gaming, Jagex, Microsoft Xbox or Xbox, whichever they prefer, and King. So all those 5 companies really came together with us and decided, actually, we need a call to action. We need something tangible that people can really come towards. And thus the Raise the Game pledge was made. It's quite, it's not specifically aimed at any particular form of diversity. It's very broad. We cover everything within EDI, but I think that's to our benefit because, again, with organizations such as Gaming Magazine, Outmaking Games, Pocket Play, Gaming Games, and Autistica, and so many others that I'm currently talking to, if not got on as supporters. Like recently, Limit Break Mentorship was a really good and an achievement partner for me because I'd been like chasing them for a year, and I was like, I really want you guys to jump on board. But the whole Raise the Game pledge is basically all about getting the games industry together to come as one community to say, actually, we can make positive change. We can make impactful, meaningful solutions to problems that have been in not only our industry, but in general, the globe. Obviously, not going to say it's going to be an overnight job, but we are here to kind of go, this is the first step, and we can do this together. And the pledge is all about channeling in that spirit through our core values, which really luckily is coming up now. So we've got our 3 core pledge pillars, which is all about creating a diverse workforce, which is pledge pillar 1. Pledge pillar 2 is all about inclusive work culture, so really shaping and making welcoming places to work. And then pledge pillar 3 is all about reflecting greater diversity in our work. And that's not just video games, but also events and marketing, because obviously when you think of games, like for example, your game might be really diverse, but the marketing behind it might not be as appropriate as it should be. So all those elements coming together really make a more positive narrative. And as you can see, hopefully from the screenshot, those are some of the recent partners that we've just got on board over the last week through the anniversary. So we've got the National Students Esports, Sega Hardlight, Renaissance PR, Gfinity.
Oh, Renaissance. Yeah, Renaissance. Yeah, the good old.
They are all recent partners, and we've got even more. I mean, as part of the 1-year anniversary, and again, because I'm so happy this initiative's been happening for a year, we're doing a range of activities. So some of the activities include writing article pieces, not only about specific EDI activities that are happening, such as one of our supporters for the pledge called Save Point Social, hitting their also 1-year mark. But we've also got case studies, and the case studies are accounts from companies talking about their experience with the pledge and their EDI journey. And as the shot from the website showed, we've got Splash Damage and Creative Assembly's case studies out, and we're going to have even more. Very appropriate for this show, we've got Fish Lab Games as our next case study that's coming out on Friday.
Cool.
This Friday. So definitely for anyone who wants to kind of see how some of these studios are working on their EDI subjects and matters, or see where they're going towards, these case studies are great examples.
Mhm.
But on top of that, we got loads of engagement activities as well. So on the 16th, sorry, I thought that was me. On the 16th of February, we've got a well-being webinar that anyone is welcome to attend. I should definitely give links to people after this show. And then we've also got our 1 year on report, which is going to take some of those case studies and put them into an overall narrative talking about how the UK industry has done with the pledge.
Mhm.
And kind of on that note, I forgot to mention, but although the pledge is very UK focused, we do work with international partners. Again, Fish Labs were our first international partner, and I think it's so valuable to not have the pledge closed off, because obviously, again, forgetting the more political work stuff, but as a general thing, it's always great to come together, share, and be as one community, a global community. So having international companies and partners get involved is also important to the pledge. And hopefully as we go along, hopefully like in the next couple years, I can come back to the show and be like, on our 5th anniversary, we can like do more with international partners. And again, this activity today and with devcom in general is kind of that pilot to do more, because actually if we all come together, these negative issues in our industry will reduce, because everyone's just on the same page and they're all chill and happy. I could have said that more technical, but it's just easy to just go chill and happy. Chill and happy like cats and dogs.
I'm happy. I like that.
I mean, you actually.
Kind of the last activity,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, as you mentioned, that kind of one of the big activities that we're doing for this month is the showcase. We're hoping, I'm in the middle of getting it all together now, but what our showcase will do, which is going to be a really nice thing, is our founding pledge partners will have interviews. We've had a panel put together about talking about representation. We're really going to explore Pledge Pillar 3 more through this showcase, like show examples of diverse games and potentially upcoming games, and really bring the topic of, actually, we know representation in games needs some more work. How can we get there? And hopefully this showcase can help. But of course, again, it's also about supporting events. So the Call for Change Summit and the Gayming Awards are very much on my heart to support as much as possible, because absolutely love all the work Robin does. Absolutely have loved getting in touch with the devcom crew over the last month. So that not only having our own events, but uplifting other events where possible, I think will make the whole approach to a diverse, more inclusive industry better for you, me, and everyone else.
Totally. Yeah.
Kind of to round off my talking bit before anything else, just to answer your question about how I got into this role. So I was office manager for Yuki during 2020. I was the maternity cover for who obviously Kirsty, who was the office manager, went and had a lovely little daughter. But while she was having her daughter, I was there to support the team as office manager. And I kind of took on the pledge as kind of like a lot of our team members who were on it at the start in February, they had to move on to other projects. And because I was really passionate about diversity, I absolutely volunteered to take on the responsibility of the pledge. And kind of through all that effort, by October, November time, when I was coming to the end of my contract as maternity cover, Yuki took the decision to kind of offer me a new full-time role, which is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion /EDI coordinator role, which I absolutely have adored being in. And again, it will really help the pledge, but the overall industry, I feel, because actually having people in this area of, these matters not only will help those that don't know where to go pivot to the right course of action, but it also help people who are a bit like awkward around the conversations to have someone they can just message and go, how can I do this subject? How can I tackle awkward conversations around protests that have been going on, or how can we put more support towards Pride Month within our companies? And I'm not saying I'm going to have all the answers, but to have individuals that can assist from outside those companies, I think is so vital, because actually it gives that company an outside perspective, but also enriches their activities because they've looked beyond themselves. They've become reflective of their actions by going out and finding those answers.
Actually, one question that I wanted to ask you already answered, which was basically if the pledge is a UK only project. Kitty cat, stop it. But before that, Nicholas, Sebastian, if you could share the links, for example, to the website in our chat, that would be dope, because I can't really do it right now. So others can actually check it out and see what it's about. Do you want to comment in the chat, or
we should give the cats a segment?
The second question that I actually wanted to ask, and I hope I didn't miss that during your explanation of the pledge itself. What are the standards or the requirements studios or organizations that actually join or apply for the pledge have to fulfill?
No, absolutely. I'm really glad, because as you can see, I'm very talkative, so I could talk your ears off a day. So it's good to actually come back and be like, Dom, focus. This question
go
needs
on,
answering.
Hit me.
But in terms of requirements, so with the pledge, we've currently got 5 tiers. So it's probably the easiest to run them down. So our founding pledge partners have the most responsibility, because they are the examples, because they put the budget into the pledge. They've got not only examples to the others, but they've got to live up to kind of that responsibility. And that's not to say they have to be perfect, because no one's perfect. But it's a bit like Spider-Man. They have great power, comes with great responsibility. So they have that duty of care. While pledge partners are game developers, publishers, and other similar organizations, middleware companies in the game sector in the UK, who obviously either want to make that commitment, are already making that commitment to change, or are just on the start of their journey. So the only requirement for them is to obviously commit to the pledge, commit to change, which is how they do it is, so I do a bit of research on every company that applies to the pledge or wants to be in the pledge, just to make sure everything is all okay. And if I've got any questions, I always have a meeting with them. But I also ask the partners or potential partners to submit me a summary of what they've previously done, what they're currently doing, and what their future ideas or improvements are. Because this pledge isn't about naming and shaming. This pledge is all about supporting. So if I have that summary of knowing what they've done, where they are, where they want to go, I can pivot accordingly to either give them more general support or tailored support depending on their situation. Because even if it's from signposting to other organizations that can help them achieve those goals, or I can facilitate an introduction where they can meet another company within the pledge that's already had that experience and they can learn from, those are all going to be helpful. And it helps. And then the only other requirement is to have an annual review process, which is again relating it back to the case studies. That's part one of that annual review process, where they write a case study about their experience with the pledge and how well they've gone. but I'm also kind of piloting an annual review meeting currently with some of the partners, our first partners, to see if actually having a one-to-one with each partner is the most effective way to help them, or there might be other ways. Because we've only reached the 1 year mark, that accountability process is still in the air and development, but it's so vital because actually we don't want to just be saying stuff. We want to practice what we preach. And to do that, you need accountability and you need engagement. So those are quite important. Just to quickly go off the other tiers, we got academic pledge partners, which is just generally games companies that focus in education, or universities, colleges, and other education organizations that want to be involved in the pledge, that have involvement in the games industry. We have pledge supporters, which are charities, advocacy groups, and all those organizations in between who are already doing active work in the space. So again, since Robin's here, his gaming magazine is a part of that support tier, and I generally always go to him and be like, we've got this activity, or do you want to get this promoted? So it's all about me uplifting their efforts, because actually they are helping build that greater EDI image across the industry. So why shouldn't they be championed and supported? And then the last tier is the international pledge partners and supporters, which is again for any organization that's not within the UK but wants to get involved. And unlike pledge partners, I don't have the accountability. Like, I still open the case studies for those partners, such as Fish Lab have done, but the account review process isn't mandatory for that tier because obviously they're international. But again, as I mentioned before, I'm hoping in the future, as we develop more within the UK for the pledge, we can potentially lift it off to more international levels. But that is more wait to see, don't overpromise. That's just generally open arms to anyone who's international and wants to get involved, and let them jump in, because as the pledge page is showing, you can see Fish Lab, you'll see Iron Galaxy Games, who are based in America, and Keyword Studios, who are based in Ireland. Those are all of our international partners. But along with that, so many other organizations. I think we've now hit the 107 mark, and I'm literally waiting for 3 more partners to make it 110. So we are constantly growing. And again, if you in the audience see a company that you know, they are making active change within their companies through EDI efforts, which is amazing to think. Even if it's a small change, they're making something. I can absolutely promise that from all the engagements I've had with all of these organizations.
One final question. If you still have the time, it's going to be a short one. But for example, when you become a member of this pledge, if you become a pledge partner, or if you're engaged in any way, is there, I don't know, some sort of proof that you have to deliver at some point that the change that you're working on actually bears fruit at some point? You know, because it's one thing to say that, for example, we have the plans to change this and this and this, and then you become a pledge partner and then nothing happens. So is there some sort of, catch up where say, okay, so these were your plans and this happened so far? Is there anything like that?
Absolutely. Sorry if I didn't make it clear about the accountability process, but the case study forms part of that example.
Okay,
but when we have annual review meetings, that will form the other part. And my goal is to pilot that approach to see, because I can't say it enough, but accountability is so important, because we don't want companies just to say, I've done this, but then there's no proof. If within these accountability meetings I've had so far, they have shown me initiatives within their organizations that bear fruit. Even though I've only had 3 of those meetings so far, they are going positively. So forth. That's not the right word, but they are going well so far. That's better. And so going forward, I'm kind
that.
of going to take it step by step. And again, it's all about me working with the rest of my team at Yuki to see how this accountability process goes. Because obviously, I don't want to get to the point where a company's like, oh, we can't share this change with you. And it's like, well, you know, you've committed and we've really got to see that change. Even if it's one change, you know, inclusive language in your job ads, or you now have chilled Fridays, which is where you take the half an hour at the end of your day off to have team activities. You know, small changes is better than no changes. But that's something that currently I have no tangible things to show on the stream, but I'm hoping literally over the course of the next year that will be more clear, with the case studies acting as the kind of first steps into that accountability process. But hopefully later on, you'll see more news from all those kind of companies and partners doing things that are making that big, impactful, meaningful change.
Awesome. That sounds so cool.
I really like it. It's just like really grabbing the topic and like shaking it and like saying, now we're gonna walk and we're gonna make small steps, but those small steps count. And I just, yes, it's so cool.
It's so cliche if you say that, you know, but every journey, no matter how long, starts with the first step, no matter how small. And I mean,
I can't deny that a lot of my passion is driven from imagination, but I think the cliches, the cheese, that's all really what we strive for at the end of the day, don't we, in our day? Because actually, when something can be as plain and simple as literally saying, I played this game, I felt I was represented because it had this character and this and this and that character, the day when that can occur with every game on the market will be a day where we can positively just go, all of our efforts as a collective global industry have worked because we've come together and we've made that change. And I really love the analogy you've used, just like shake it, just like.
Yes, sometimes it is about shaking.
Shake it like a Polaroid picture.
I just wanted to say thank you again for having me on the stream and talking about the pledge. It's been my honor, and I am absolutely looking forward to the Summit of Change, or Call of Change Summit. I keep pronouncing it wrong, but that's more my dyslexia's fault than anything else. But I'm looking forward to that, and especially, again, the leading man himself, Robin, with his Gayming Awards. Again, I am absolutely thrilled to see that come to fruition. And before our showcase, we are definitely at Yuki and through Raise the Game going to be supporting it as much as we possibly can through, again, maybe blog pieces, promoting in our event calendar and social media. So maybe a bit of a hype man at the end here, but I am absolutely happy to do that because, again, if we all champion and uplift each other, the industry will get to that end destination of equality, diversity, and inclusion much faster. So, yeah, you know, and it's also, I can then say I'm doing my job because I'm supporting all these great causes.
That's wonderful. Hey Dom, thank you so much. I mean, not only for you know getting in touch or getting back to us in the first place, being on the stream today. It was wonderful having you. I'm gonna call quits as well for today. So Rufina, now you gotta take the lead with Deborah and you know ask tons of questions to Robin. So you know you have 1.5 hours ahead of you. Dom, we're gonna probably talk on a almost daily basis from now on anyways. I'm gonna keep you in the loop. So again, thank you so much. It's wonderful work that you're doing, and we're super happy and honored to partnering up with you. It's great.
And I'm super happy for the Call of Change because, again, I'm very new to the devcom, gamescom activities because I'm fairly new into it, like in terms of the higher up in this industry. But absolutely getting the pleasure to meet you guys over the last few weeks has been amazing. So you can no doubt expect me to be filling up your email boxes as well. But we'll let the audience get to watch what they came for, which is questions and answers about the Gayming Awards.
Take care.
Yes.
Like,
And
now
thank
you
you.
know you're overhyping me now. Get going.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye, Dom.
I
Such a
have
pleasure.
no idea actually.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
So,
How are you?
as you can see, we have a change of host. So Nico left, and then we have Deborah. Woohoo! Thank you.
Hi, nice to see you guys. Let me reposition my camera to be in the. There it is. Now I'm in the center. Is that better?
I haven't
Nice
seen
to
you
see
in
you.
maybe a week or two. Since ages. It's just like
It
I think
feels
last
like
time
a
we
long
spoke was 2
time.
weeks ago, and now it feels like it was months.
Yeah, it's true. Plus, time is a concept right now. I don't even
Yeah.
really know what to make of it. It's like
What is time?
That's a weird
Exactly.
construct, right? Time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all very confusing. But yeah, it's nice to be here.
Yeah, so happy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time. Robin, once again, thank you for being here.
No, thank you.
Now that we had, oh my gosh, now I have to be leading that show. Now that we have a bit more time, should we start with Robin introducing yourself? Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah, sure.
Gaming Magazine.
I'm Robin. Hello. I am the founder of Gayming Magazine. That's gaming with a Y, Gayming. There it is on the screen. And where do I start? So my background is in LGBT media. My company runs 3 online magazines. We run 3 podcasts. We make TV shows and live events back in the days when we could actually meet up and do things in person. And I'm hoping those days will come back because I do enjoy a good live event, I have to admit. Specifically relating to what we're talking about now with Gayming Magazine, gaming as a concept started back in June of 2019. We launched in Pride Month, and it was born out of an idea that there wasn't any representation in the media for LGBT gamers. And really the ball started rolling from there. I had a conversation in February of that year with the fabulous Dr. Joe Twist. Sorry, we're on Twitch, Joe Twist of Yuki, the same company that Dom works for. So the last chap, he was right here, and she basically was talking around sort of like how there was a sort of renaissance in queer games, and how we could do more about it and do more content relating to queer games. And really, I started to go, okay, cool. So we ran a couple of magazines at the time. How can we put more video games into those magazines? I went away, I did some research, and it was kind of like, okay, so who else is talking about queer games? And I don't particularly at this point really mean there are plenty of other excellent LGBT magazine websites out there that all touch on games a little bit. But I mean, who really takes a deep dive, who really kind of goes really into and kind of holds a mirror up where necessary, but also celebrates where appropriate as well, the role of sort of queer representation in games and in the industry. And it was at that point that I kind of realized that nobody's doing this. And so that was kind of my jumping off point of kind of like, okay, so we'll do it. And there was sort of like twofold discussions that were happening behind the scenes as well. There was a lot of people that I knew of who worked in the industry who were queer, who didn't feel represented. And there was a lot of freelance writers who wanted to write about their passion of their thoughts, their feelings on queer games, but they had nowhere to put it because with the greatest love and respect to other gaming magazines out there, putting queer content into their magazines just editorially just didn't really chime with the rest of their magazine, for example. So a lot of people were putting pictures in, and to be honest with you, unless it was Pride Month, they weren't really getting any feedback or any application or any sort of pickups. And so really it was kind of gaming's become a home for the players, queer players. It's become a home for writers, and it's become a home for the industry people as well that have sort of congregated around this. And then it's sort of mushroomed from there really into 101 other things that we also do now on Badgers Gaming. But we can talk about that if you ask me any questions, and we can keep talking a little bit more. But no, that's sort of me in a nutshell. And I'm just really, really grateful that obviously we're based in the UK. We serve a global audience. We were read by 95,000 people last month. 50% of that audience is based in the States. 30% is based in UK and Europe. And then we have a respectable number of people based across Australia, Asia, South Africa. I think we're read now on nearly every continent, which I'm beyond proud of, given the sort of I feel that the united kind of topic of games has brought people together, perhaps in ways they wouldn't have thought, perhaps in ways that maybe transcends political boundaries, for example. And I think that sort of is the power of games doing good, not only from a representation point of view, but from a common language.
Yeah, definitely.
Stunned silence. Okay,
Almost,
I'm off.
it's almost poetic. I'm sorry.
No, it's super interesting. I mean, I would, well, there's tons of things I want to know, but I guess since you started this in like 2019, how far have you seen the industry come in that time? Because I guess it was started because there was like a real need and a real lack. What have you noticed over the time that you've done it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fascinating question. So for me, it was I feel actually like we came at the right time, in a sense that the industry was probably turning a corner already, and I think we kind of, to keep the analogy going, came up on the outside and kind of represented and took it forward. I'm going to stop sports analogies, I'm terrible at them, but for me it was, I think since we launched, there's always been indie games, for example. Sorry, I'm trying to quickly formulate all my thoughts. Indie games, for me, has always been kind of like the number one place for queer representation. They're not, obviously, we all know why indie games are so powerful for storytelling, that they're not beholden to kind of a corporate overlord that will sort of shut them down or sort of sanitize the stories. So for me, the indie game is growing almost exponentially. Like the number of queer indie games is growing exponentially, and I feel like that's something that, particularly with gaming, we embrace the indies so much more than AAAs. And I think that it's something that really sets us apart from our competitors, is the fact that I think people get stuck in the sort of AAA representation, which is fantastic. They're the ones that really kind of get the headlines. But for me, trying to dig out those beautiful, touching little stories hidden away on Steam or even Itch, I think is absolutely fantastic. And I'm really proud of being able to do that. Obviously, with the Gayming Awards, we have specific categories for best LGBTQ indie. But I'm also really happy that some of the major categories, that's just downplayed the indie category. The other categories, with AAA nominees, have indie games nominated in those categories as well. So it actually is taken indie games further into kind of like these wider categories. So it's not just being pigeonholed as like, oh, and here's the token indie game category. We've really managed to sort of integrate them. I think over the last, let's say, 2 years now, we have seen a lot of change. It has been transformative. I mean, look, we're sitting here now a year, more or less. 2020 was a weird year for everybody. But in the meantime, we've also seen The Last of Us Part 2 come out, which has smashed all records and has a queer female lead, as well as other LGBTQ representation built into it as well. We've seen Tell Me Why come out, which is the first ever game that has a trans protagonist. We've seen a AAA DLC dedicated to celebrating queer marriage with Borderlands 3 Guns, Love and Tentacles. So I mean, look, there has been a notable change, and I think this year has been amazing. And I'm just really proud of the fact we've been here, able to sort of report on it, celebrate it, and secure some pretty good interviews and get some good content out as well. Yeah.
Just to go back to this representation topic, I think for me, it's really, I'm also discovering myself, like saying, oh, I really want queer games and queer representation, because and the fact that I was not aware of the lack of it was completely astonishing me. I was like, the first time I saw The Last of Us Part 2 with this lesbian character, I actually cried, and I was like, and when I cried, I was like, fuck, sorry, I just realized that I was missing it. I never had it. And that was, I was like, what's wrong? And how can a player or a person like me just never go through life and in the industry and actually not understanding that we're like a representation? I was.
We've become conditioned to accepting that games mainly feature white people, mainly feature straight people. And I think that is something that we need to really kind of break down those barriers. And I think it's happening, but it's always come at that kind of, this is the tokenistic game, or this is the indie game that does it, or this is the risk-taking game. But I think what's been proven, particularly with The Last of Us Part 2, the fact they smashed every record going, and the last I heard is still the fastest or the biggest selling PlayStation exclusive game now. The argument about whether putting queer characters into games sells games is mute. It's been proven. And I think that's something that we can all sort of celebrate and stand by. That the argument that including diverse characters in games is a sort of a money killer, that's dead in the water. Tell a good story, make a good game, and put some diverse characters in, and that's all we ask.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Do you think that for a lot of studios, it is still very much just about the business case? So unless, you know, there is either a precedent to show like, yes, this can be successful financially, they just won't even kind of go there? Or do you think that there's enough maybe movement within the industry that also just says like, this is the right thing to do? Or do you think those things are always in tension?
I think you can tell. Like, I think when a games maker decides to set out and tell an authentic story, whatever that authentic story is going to be, will lead them in that right direction. The backstory to Tell Me Why is that they didn't set out on day one to make a game with a trans person at the center of the game. They just wanted to tell a great story. And then as they developed it, it suddenly became different parts of the sort of thinking started to plug in terms of, oh, this person could be trans, and therefore their sister. Part of it is then figuring out how they then relate with their sister, how they then get on with their family. They're back in their hometown. And I think it sort of mushroomed from there. But I do feel like if you set out on the right course to tell a good story, then I think it becomes something that will be led in that right direction.
Just because things have changed doesn't mean you can't work it out. Your sister's never gonna give up on you.
So how can we make it right? Together.
I'm also exceptionally proud we got Gaming Mag at the end of that trailer. But yeah, no. And it's true what we said in there. I didn't write that review. I kind of wish I did. But it is the future of video games. It's telling stories that people want to connect with. And look, it doesn't work for every game. I'm fully aware of that, and I don't expect. And it's not just me. It's not me saying what I think. I think the world. We don't expect to sort of be represented, included, or whatever. It has to be story based. It's based on the story. If the story demands, great, do it. And I think if you're telling one story about one person and it's an authentic story, and that person has to be, for the sake of the story, straight, fine. If they have to be white, fine. But if you've got a mixed cast, it's not going to kill you to drop a little bit of diversity in there. And I think that's the difference. Is the kind of, we seem to be in that kind of transitionary phase, I think. And it's not just games. I think it's the whole entertainment world. Although it does always feel like games is about 5 or 10 years behind the rest of the entertainment world. But we seem to be in a position now where we are starting to sort of explore these games and the storylines, and I think it's about doing it authentically. That's always one of my passions. Don't try, and I think this is why, sort of circling back to your first question about just doing it for the money, it's not going to sell. If it stinks to high heaven as you just haven't done this properly, of course it's not going to sell. People aren't going to buy into this. There was a real concern actually when Tell Me Why was first announced by Xbox. There was a lot of alarm bells ringing. It was a lot of kind of like, oh my God, they're going to do a trans story. And although it's something that I think the press widely celebrated, we kind of took our role seriously at that moment. And I'm super proud of this. And we basically got connected straight away to Don't Nod, and we took a list of questions that had been put to us by our trans readers and friends, and just fired them at them and sort of said like, and really dug into what representation, what research have you done, how have you sort of formulate these characters, what's the thought process. And I really proud of the fact that they answered those questions very honestly. And I think we sort of anecdotally, at least, a lot of the comments that were being left on the site afterwards were like, thank you so much, this really put our minds to rest. Because people sort of like, there's a huge red flag there. A games company is trying to tell a trans story. That's a huge problem if it's not done properly. And I'm so relieved and so proud of Don't Nod for the work they put in to craft such an amazing game and such a great character in Tyler.
How important do you think is it for for developers, if they are creating a title about a specific group of people, for that people group also to be represented amongst the team that's developing the game? Like, I remember, for example, Courtney Coburn, when she was speaking about her Race VR game, and she was saying, even if you can tell the story, it doesn't necessarily mean it's your story to tell. So making sure that you have, the right people on board to tell the story. How important do you think that is? And do you think that always has to be the case? Or do you think, I don't know, a group of white devs can make a game about a Black experience or about an experience that they themselves necessarily haven't had?
It's risky, isn't it? Because it's very difficult to tell an authentic story when none of the people in that room have actually sort of lived that experience. There are probably different levels, to be brutally honest with you. I said earlier, like, if you had a great cast of characters and you wanted to chuck a bit of diversity in, I think there's a difference between having perhaps a few NPCs who were trans or gay or bi or Black or whatever. Then I think you can write them in fairly easily because they're not intrinsic to the storyline. But if you're producing a game that is specifically around those stories and you want to tell a story through that character, then it's imperative. You need those people in that room, not just for the sake of telling that story, but for the sake of the whole game. And then you got to think about the marketing of it. I mean, I don't want to get lost in a cyberpunk rabbit hole, but we can all sit here and talk about marketing maybe, and decisions taken early in the release of a game cycle or a game announcement about certain images of posters in an environment that you do and don't put out. And I think that's something that sort of making a game, writing a story is one part of it, but then how you sell it versus how you then spread that news out to the press as well. And I'm really actually genuinely proud of how we handled and how we worked with and still continue to work with Don't Nod and Tell Me Why and Xbox Studios to help shape that message and help communicate that out as well. Because again, you could make a fantastic game. You could make it in such an amazing way that that has really done the whole community proud. But then if you don't know how to get that story out, you sort of, it's a bit of a waste again because you might be preaching to the wrong crowd. We can all sit here and think about certain websites that maybe aren't the best place to put diverse stories or talk about diverse games because of the comment sections. Don't read the comment section, kids. And I think it's something that is a wholesale kind of process of writing the game, producing the game, doing the art for the game. I think it's really important. Obviously, there again, it's not taking anything away from brilliant games artists, but there are certain portrayals that really need a sensitive touch. And I think being able to sort of have people in those companies, and look, I've always said it's become a catchphrase. Diverse companies just by default will make diverse games. That's just a thing. If you're a good company, you will make good games.
One of the things I liked about this Courtney Cockburn session that she did at devcom was she was saying good intentions sometimes are not enough, and sometimes this is exactly what you were saying, Deborah. Is it your story to tell? Is it your place to take? Is it are you do you have enough information about this? And I actually we see this happening so often in other aspects, not only in games but also in music, in movies, in protest as well, politics. It just happens so often, this situation where people feel entitled to actually a cause because they actually are, I want to fight that, but it's not theirs. It's not ours. I mean, we have to be supportive of this, of course, and give the space and hold the space, but we don't have to be the one actually talking about it. I see it so often in the sometimes, in the, I was gonna say in the clubbing scene, like when you have parties and a club is like having, for example, a techno club having parties that are not maybe the place to be, or having participants to this scene. I mean, I'm just trying to bring in some other aspects of this, but yeah.
Yeah, I apologize. My techno clubbing analogies aren't quite on point, I'm afraid, for this conversation.
But cooler than both of us. That's just
no.
But you're right. No, you're absolutely right. So and also it's about the time, it's about the way it's told, and I think people sometimes fall into a trap of how can I put this, sort of, it's people being pushed to the front when they don't want to be pushed to the front. And I think people are getting quite fed up of being pushed to the front. The trans community seems to be living on a daily basis through attacks and through smears and lies. And it's important as allies and as people who, like myself, who don't identify as trans, but I have many a trans friend. I have huge respect for the trans community. I want to help them, but in doing so, by kind of like pushing and like, let's have a whole trans month of stuff, that actually might be doing damage to a campaign. It might be doing damage because, although with the best intentions, it might be completely misguided and it might not be something they need. The key thing is not to make those decisions on behalf of other people. It's to get those people in to make those decisions themselves.
I think it's such a fine balance, right? Which is maybe why this whole space is really intimidating to people, because it's so easy to misstep. And there's not a lot of grace for the missteps out there. I think even when people are well-intentioned and they're trying to do the right thing, if it's not exactly right, people have they usually tend to pounce, right? Whereas
there's also conflicting opinions over what the right approach is. Like it's the sort of, we always fall into the trap, don't we, of talking about the trans community or the Black community or whatever. They're such a nuanced kind of community with people in there that feel different ways. So although you could argue on paper that what you've done is a good decision and it's backed up by half the community, the other half of the community might hate it, and so you are stuck in a bit of a quagmire, in a position of, you might be a little bit damned if you do and damned if you don't. So I really do see, you're absolutely right, Deborah, that it is a minefield. It can be a minefield, but I think the more diverse voices you have in the room during the decision process and during the development process, the more those minds kind of reduce their impact, and you kind of then start to get a pass Like, I know some people that didn't like Tell Me Why. I know plenty of people that didn't like Tell Me Why. I know plenty of trans people that don't like Tell Me Why, because they thought that Tyler was a bit of a dick. And it's like you've portrayed a trans person as a bit of a git. Whereas I know other people who are fed up of trans and queer people being portrayed in video games as saintly and squeaky clean, and don't have any issues because they have to live the perfect life. We all can sit here and know that's not, trust me, that's completely wrong. And I think it's interesting how a game that was done so beautifully, even that's dividing the people. But what I think that don't not benefit from is they at least get a pass because they tried well and in the right way, and they consulted with the right people. They had a trans person who voiced Tyler. They ticked all the boxes. And then if you produce a game that you don't like, then hey, you just don't like it. But if you set out to make a game that tells a story and you just don't bother including anyone, then yeah, you're kind of gonna get in trouble for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think on the one hand, I love the idea of games telling stories of, specific groups of people to shed light and to help other people understand what that experience is like, etc. And on the other hand, I love it when entertainment as a whole has a diverse group of people represented, and it has nothing to do with who they are, who they represent. So, for like a very long time, any of the Black people that you saw on TV or in movies were always like token characters. And it's only been like fairly recently that you get to see, Black people within lead roles or even like strong supporting roles where it's not about their race. They just happen to be a character within that universe. So I think there's like both things can be really strong in their own context.
Totally, absolutely, and I think that's where you're absolutely right. You're either going to tell a story about the LGBTQ experience, or just having some inclusion. Going back to the word authentic, some authentically boring inclusion. Seriously, genuinely, that's the whole point. It's like I think so many people get confused about this has to be this massive kind of like rainbow and confetti moment. Whereas we're actually just really boring. And it just a throwaway line. Like I always quote Borderlands, and I apologize. I'm just slightly obsessed. But there are blink and you miss it references to same-sex partnerships, to a guy talking about his boyfriend. It's one line. He says it really quickly, and if you aren't paying attention, it's gone, and it doesn't matter. The world keeps on turning, the story keeps on being told, but for that one little glimmer of a moment, you clock the word boyfriend, and it's like, oh, cool, and that's it. That's the end of that. And I think I totally agree. I mean, I'm mildly obsessed with Bridgerton, and I think it's exactly the same. You just have sort of like it's almost. It's a hybrid, isn't it? That's sort of a hybrid between colorblind casting and color inclusive casting, because I think
it's totally a mix. Rufina and I had a conversation about this for a while.
But I'm now super curious to actually hear Robin's opinion about this, because I have a very strong opinion about that, but apparently very different. So I'm very curious to hear the opposite of it. Why you like it? Can't even say it. Sorry.
Bridgerton. Yes, Bridgerton. No, it's.
But I think you're right about the colorblind. It's exactly about this, which actually also pisses me off, annoys me about this. They're just like, just put like colors and people with different, like Asian and Black, and it's all fine. And I found it very offensive actually somehow. But also I'm white, so why do I even say that? But
I was going to say, I'm just going to back out the room really quietly. And no, I listen, it doesn't. Okay, initially you're absolutely right. There is that kind of like, I'm watching a period drama, everyone should be white, but that's our programming. That's how our brains are programmed after 50 odd, 60 odd, 100 years of period drama. But for me, I just it was so refreshing. It was fantastic because there is historical proof that it wasn't just a white society. There's plenty of historical proof that that period of London, there were black and brown people having fantastic lives and whatever else. And it wasn't. It's tricky, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you're right. It didn't look the same, but I actually found it really refreshing. I actually really enjoyed it, and I think it told a great story. And I think people, we're possibly being thinking about the age in which it's set. We're possibly sat there thinking about, well, that shouldn't make sense, but then we've only been fed this image through history, and of course we all know what history does, that whitewashes everything anyway. So how honestly do we sit here and do we know that there wasn't a black prince? How do we sit here and honestly know that there wasn't a sort of as you say, some Asian characters that had come up into society? And I think it's great, and I think it's absolutely fantastic to see that. And I think part of the casting's colorblind. In a sense, it's just there's a great set of actors playing great roles. But I think the other half of it is, I think it's color sensitive, and challenging history. History is always told by the victors, and we know the sort of the appalling sort of treatment that people of color have had through history. And so of course there's an argument to say that history's been whitewashed. So yeah, I love it. My only regret with it is that after the first episode, I text my mum going, "You've got to watch Bridgerton. It's amazing." Then we got to the 5th episode, and I was like, "Stop watching Bridgerton immediately. It's disgusting. Please don't. Please don't watch episode 5. Skip episode 5. Skip that episode. I'll fill you in on the sort of like the cliff notes of what happened, and then come back and start with episode 6 again. Everything's fine. Please don't watch the oral sex episode."
So much sex. No, it's real. Actually, I didn't even know that. That potentially the show isn't trying to like rewrite history that didn't happen, but actually potentially portray history that did happen that got buried. So that's really interesting. I didn't know.
But that's a very interesting what Robin was saying about that history had been completely whitewashed, and colonization and colonial movement, horrible movements actually had completely whitewashed everything. And it's I'm trying to get more information and educate myself on that. But I'm following someone on Instagram who actually shares a lot of information about how colonialism has impacted, for them, the American society. It's very American oriented, but it's so interesting to understand some of how this has changed so much and impacted the US and so.
Absolutely, and there's plenty of stories anecdotally in America even of people of color who were brought over into America, and then they actually rose up into society in New York, and there's evidence out there that and again, it's that whole experience of whitewashing that kind of then plays down those sort of involvements, because in the UK at least, if you say the word Duke or Earl or Lord, then the first color that pops into your head is a crusty old white guy. Whereas why couldn't there be love that sort of cross boundaries and stuff? But it just, if somebody stood up and painted the Earl of whatever, they'd reach for the white palette straight away, wouldn't they?
Yeah, no, super interesting. Oh gosh, I see how much time we've already spent just talking about that. And I know we wanted to look at the Gayming Awards and hear about that, and look at some of the nominees. I'd also love to hear about, what some of the criteria for nominating those games, and then chat about your talk at DevCom or at the Call for Change Summit that's coming up as well. So we still have lots of ground to cover. I kind of
Bridgerton
forgot that
chat
we
was
were
much more
streaming. I was like,
interesting,
we're just
trust
having
me.
a conversation in my living room. So,
Should have just wine and just having conversation. Yeah, next
yeah,
time.
exactly.
The Gaming Awards, yes. February the 24th at 8 p.m. UK, so that's 9 p.m. European, on Twitch, twitch.tv/gamingmag. The awards are presented by EA Games. They're exclusively broadcast on Twitch. There's my 2 sponsor shout outs done. And no, I mean, look, it's something that has been churning around in my head since day one of all of this. I think when we started gaming, like I say, we're focusing on all this fantastic sort of achievement in queer video games. Inevitable that we were going to end up at a point where awards were on the cards. And then I kind of felt like we were spurred on a little bit by looking at some of the nominees that were coming out for other games awards, and just the sort of the vanilla kind of banality of some of that. And it's just like you're missing all the good bits. So I thought, okay, well, we'll do an award show that rewards all the good bits. And that for me was kind of where all this sort of grew from. I mean, and then really, it sort of mushroomed from there. We've ended up with 9 categories. I can talk you through them real quick.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we could bring up the
website.
The website.
Yes,
and
if you go to
nominee.
gamingawards.com, it will put you onto this lovely website that will summarize everything I'm about to talk about anyway. But no, so we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. So we have the best LGBTQ narrative award, which is obviously telling an authentic LGBTQ story. Should I do this in time with the website as it's scrolled? Because that would make more sense.
That'd be lovely.
Logic, wouldn't it?
Now
Yes.
we've got it up
Okay.
now.
Right, scroll please. Game of the Year, sponsored by EA Games as our presenting partner. Our nominees were chosen by a diverse panel of 25.
Can we scroll slower?
No,
Sorry,
we've gone way past. I can't talk that fast.
You can't talk that fast.
No, gone too far. Down a bit. Down.
No, down.
Down a little bit, Nicholas.
Yeah, we're just looking at the nominees. More.
Bit faster.
Oh, more. There we go.
Stop.
Yes. Stop.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Where was I? Game of the Year, sponsored by EA Games. Yeah. So Game of the Year, our top category, chosen by our 25 strong judging panel from people around the world. And our nominees for that category are Animal Crossing, because it's basically saved everyone's sanity during lockdown. The Final Fantasy VII Remake, because it was just awesome. Hades, which was an amazing game that came out, that was a really, really super diverse dungeon crawler. And of course, Tell Me Why, for all the reasons we just talked about. Can I say before I go to this list, actually, that I'm super proud of the number of companies that have sort of come together to support us. Like the names that are going to start rolling up in just a second. Like I'm not sure that Xbox and PlayStation have ever actually appeared on a bill together, sponsoring something before. So there's a win. So our next category on this list is the Readers Award. This is obviously celebrating Gaming Mag's readers' favorite game of 2020. This was voted for by the reader public. So this was nominated. The nominees were drawn up by our writers. So our 30-odd freelance writers came up with this final list, and then it was put out to the public vote. So that's why you get some slightly odd nominees, I'll be honest. Animal Crossing, Baldur's Gate 3, Crusader Kings 3, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, If Found, the absolutely fantastic If Found, Kentucky Route Zero Act 5, Paradise Killer, Tell Me Why, and The Last of Us Part 2. Interesting little tidbit to note, that most of you would have probably already spotted the fact that The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't nominated for Game of the Year. The judges together felt like Game of the Year should be ethically considered. And I think that kind of ruled The Last of Us Part 2 out of Game of the Year because of the stories that have emerged from the production of the game. And the judges did strongly feel that the Game of the Year should reward good game production practice as well as the end result. So that was an interesting decision taken. Moving on then to the indie game, which is sponsored by Xbox. Obviously, the indie games are an amazing thing that we have spoken about already on this little stream. And the indie games, because of the sort of diverse nature of them, because how sort of like wide and how small potentially they are, but nonetheless important. We actually opened this out to a public nomination as well, so people could come to us with their suggestions. And I'm super glad we did, because we found some amazing games through this process. So we have a Summer's End on the list. We have Ace in Space, Errant Kingdom, If Found, Ekenfell, and Murder by Numbers. Ekenfell was something that took us all by surprise. We had 700 and odd nominations come in for this category from the general public, and 300 and odd of them were for Ekenfell. And I remember when I opened up the sort of the results box, for want of a better phrase, and I saw all these nominations for Ekenfell. I'm like, we're being spammed, surely, like something that someone's like spamming us. And then I looked into it, and it's like, my God, this is an absolute sleeper of a game. It's super amazing about setting magic in a wizarding school, but just not with the sort of turfy involvement. And it was it had some amazing sort of things, and it was all over Twitter, and people, and for a game site that prides ourselves on knowing what's happening in the indie game world, I'll freely admit to the fact we missed it. Yeah, and now I'm super glad it was brought to our attention, because it is an amazingly cute game. Everyone go out and get it immediately. It's on Steam and Switch. And yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Streamer of the Year, sponsored by Twitch. Streaming, to me, if you'd spoken to me about 2 years ago, I wouldn't really have a clue what was going on. And I would sort of think of the idea of everyone sat around just watching other people play games was really pointless. But as soon as I kind of plugged into, actually, it's not really just about playing the games, it's the community. Particularly then the strength of the queer community that is built around these streamers. I'm utterly enchanted by the whole thing now. For me, it's almost an irrelevance what game they're playing. The fact that they are building communities across political divides, across country divides, and bringing people in from the cold almost in countries where they're not allowed to be gay, or they're not allowed to, or even just in sort of backward parts of Western countries, in repressive sort of families and environments, that for me, it's just, if they have somewhere to escape digitally into a world that just supports them, that supports everybody's choices and respects them for that, I'm forever absolutely sort of in awe of what they do. And we put this out for a public nomination. We had, I think, about 300 nominations come in for people all across around the world, and the top 14 are in front of us. So I'll just quickly read them off. So it's Biggest Benner, Bitch Pudding, Cypher of Tyre, Dia, Evilicious, Fox Queen, I Am Brandon, John, Little Legs TV, Mermaid Queen Jude, Meteor Matt, Meabite, Psyche, and Queer God, Psyche, and Queer God. They all do amazing work. They all deserve the award. Every streamer almost that builds a community that people can get behind deserves an award. But one has to win, and it's a public vote, and that's been and gone, so you've missed it anyway. But we had 7,000 odd people vote for it, and that's amazing. And yeah, the person who's won, I know will do a great job for their community, representing, living up to the mantle of being the Streamer of the Year. Authentic Representation Award, which is sponsored by Green Man Gaming. So we've obviously the topics that we've just been talking about have been about sort of authentic representation. It's about not just making a queer game, but telling it right. And I think we were sort of keen to make sure that people that have been able to sort of portray the LGBT experience in an authentic way. So nominees for that category is Hades, Tell Me Why, The Last of Us Part 2, and Later Daters, which is which is genuinely one of the best dating games I've ever played, because it's set in a care home, an old people's home, and it's about people having flings in the later years of their lives, and it's super diverse. It's absolutely fabulous. It's hilarious. It's got one of the best theme tunes to a game as well, which will get stuck in your ear for days on end, and you just find yourself humming it around the house.
I think we have someone from it's Bloom Media, right? Doing the game.
Yes. Yeah, Bloom Digital.
Yeah, and we have someone speaking from them at the summit.
Fabulous.
Oh yes, of course.
Fabulous. Where do we get to? Our best character, so best LGBTQ character. Obviously, including those games, including characters in games is really important. And the characters, we wanted to recognize the best LGBT character, whether that's playable or significant NPC, because that's just as valuable. And the nominees on that one is Andrea Rodeo from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Specific nod, because I think Final Fantasy VII Remake, the one thing they got right in that was correcting some of the sort of outdated terms, outdated character inclusions and choices that was made in the original. So I think they managed to really sort of up their game, pardon the pun. Ellie from The Last of Us 2, the happy couple, so Hammerlock and Wainwright Jacobs from Borderlands 3, Guns, Love and Tentacles, and of course Tyler from Tell Me Why. Who else? So best LGBTQ narrative. So this is obviously the storyline behind everything rather than necessarily just representation. And so nominees in for that one are Borderlands 3, Guns, Love and Tentacles, The Wonderful If Found, Tell Me Why, and The Last of Us Part 2. Then we sort of get into the sort of wider thing about the Industry Diversity Award, which is sponsored by Square Enix. Literally what I just said, greater diversity in the games industry makes for greater diversity in games. And we've wanted to use this opportunity to celebrate organizations that have really helped amplify diversity in the industry. This was open to public nomination because I wanted to make sure that various studios and whatever else had opportunities to put themselves forward or be put forward. I believe we had about 30 odd nominations for this category. A great mix between studios who had done specific work and support organizations that have done excellent work as well. And our judges then narrowed those down to their sort of top 4. So we have I Need Diverse Games, the Rainbow Arcade, which is an LGBT Twitch team on Twitch, which has the last count about 80 odd members, and they've already raised nearly $1 million. I think over $1 million actually for charity as well. So, and they've only been going 12 months. The Rainbow Game Jam, which is a fantastic game jam based here in the UK, run by Kirsty and Stephen, and Yuki, who's the UK Interactive Trade Body, because of the work they've been doing, obviously with Dom early in the piece here, with their Raise the Game pledge, not just in the UK, but as you heard, stretching out around Europe and the rest of the world. And the final award is our Gaming Icon Award, which is presented actually by us. And the reason it's presented by us is I didn't want to necessarily sort of have any kind of involvement. I wanted to present that award to someone that we were very passionate about. And our judges pulled up a list of about 10 people they sort of felt were viable to be named a gaming icon. This is the only award on the list that doesn't rely on work done in 2020. It's historically based on their contribution. And so the plan is every year we award a new gaming icon. and they get added to our Hall of Fame, which at the moment just features one person. And we've already announced it, so I can talk about him. But the wonderful Robert Yang is being presented with the Gaming Icon Award. Robert's work focuses very much on, I guess, what you'd almost think about is the absolute epitome of a gay game. He wanted to make games that focus very much on gay relationships, gay sex, and he's gone and done that, and he's done it in a way that not only is a lesson to us all. There's a great one of his games, the Tea Room, is about it's based on a story from Chicago, I think it was, where the police were bored and wanted to try and stop homosexual men back in the 1960s meeting up in toilets, and they set up a camera to basically entrapment, and accidentally made one of the first full color gay pornos, and they and so in a horrible kind of situation of people being trapped into something, Roberts then made a game that sort of satirizes that, and teaches people something at the same time. And I think what's most important with his game is that, or any of his games, is that unlike other games that are out there, both AAA and indie games that are widely played, that feature graphic violence or graphic sex or graphic non-consensual, all of the relationships and all of the connections that are formed in his game are fully consent giving. That there's a mechanic in every game that he makes where you have to establish consent before you proceed with anything. And I just think he's such a sort of an innovator in that sense, and he used to lecture at a variety of universities in New York. He's done amazing work at GDC, and he's the name on everyone's lips, certainly for the last couple of years in the gaming world. So I'm super proud that we've been able to have him recognized as our first gaming icon. And that's kind of the whole package. Obviously the awards were meant to be in the central London theatre, a nice glamorous evening with ball gowns and bow ties and whatever. And now it's joggers on the sofa, in front of a TV. But hey.
You could always do, joggers on the bottom and then bow tie on the top. That's often how I actually roll these days. I'll be like, oh, I've got a turtleneck on. I've got sweatpants on.
Well, I'm wearing a smart jumper.
Or it's my pajama bottoms.
No, I should have worn the official T-shirt. If you go to bit.ly/Gaming Awards TEE, we have a charity T-shirt that is available, and the proceeds of which goes to Safe in Our World, which is a fantastic video game mental health charity. I should have been more prepared with an image of that. I apologize to Nicholas, but if you go to let me just try it on my computer, bit.ly/GAYMING awards TEEE. Yes, it works. God, it works. Yes, that works. It's an amazing 8-bit inspired tuxedo with a pride flag bow tie. So you can get dressed up to stay in, and sit on the sofa, and also do fantastic. There she is, and also do great things for charity by raising money for Safe in Our World, which is a fantastic charity that I'm very proud to be an ambassador of.
Love it.
So you mentioned before, the Gaming Awards are going to take place on February 24th at 8 p.m. GMT. It's my brother's birthday, actually, the 24th.
Oh, okay. You can celebrate on the stream.
Exactly.
It's not like we've got anything else to do. No, it's February 24th, twitch.tv/gamingmag. It's being co-streamed on twitch.tv/twitchgaming. We're getting full support, obviously, from Twitch, homepage, placement, etc. So I'm expecting a big crowd. It's hosted by the fantastic Susie Ruffle, who's an amazing LGBT comedian here in the UK. We're recording all of her segments next Wednesday in London, and then obviously we're broadcasting it the week after. It's not live. I don't do live TV. That's way too much of a breakdown in waiting to happen if we're ever going to have to go live and coordinate all of those different moving parts, because we got 9 categories, 50 odd nominees, 9 winners' speeches, and yeah, it's going to be fantastic. And nobody really knows all the results. Some people know some of their results, like the bigger companies that are out there. They prepared their acceptance speeches. They know they've won. But the ones that mean something to individuals, like the Streamer of the Year, the Indie Game, and the Industry Diversity Award, I had them all submit me acceptance speeches. And then I'm going to edit in the one who's won. So nobody knows that they've won until literally their name pops up on TV and it says that person's won, and there goes their speech.
As well, right? We're going to be hosting the stream here too on the DevCom channel.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so you can even just tune in here on the DevCom channel, because I know that it's kicking off fantastically, sort of kicking off the summit, which is the following 2 days basically. So yeah, I'm super happy with that. I think some of the Rainbow Arcade are sharing it. Some of our other sponsors are doing something around it. So no, it's absolutely fantastic that we've been able to do something that really has brought people together in such an amazing way. And again, I'm beyond happy, and I'm so grateful to the companies that have got involved. The bit at the bottom of the website that I should have mentioned, excuse me, was our supporters list as well, which is, here's a test: Creative Assembly, Sold Out Games, Jagex, Yuki, Outmaking Games, Games London, and
I can't remember this one.
I'll look it up now. But yeah, the supporters are just important, obviously, as the sponsors, but the category sponsors are fantastic. And like I say, the fact I've been able to get such amazing companies to come together is testament to their dedication, and to their sort of statement of support for diversity in games. We're talking specifically, obviously, about celebrating queer video game excellence, but this is diversity with a big D. And I think it's something that I'd love to see more of. And I think, like, we already sort of struggle through award season as it is, with the same old games being nominated for the same old categories. And I think it's really refreshing that we've been able to sort of come out with a different twist on awards that really looks at it through a certain lens, and I think a lens of sort of celebration of games that are really trying. And you know what, if we're able, and I'm gonna have my little dream on my head, but if seeing a game win a category maybe inspires I was going to say Ubisoft, not Ubisoft. Inspires another games company, EA or whoever, even to go, you know what, the next game that we're putting together, we want to win a gaming award. We want to make this game and win a gaming award. Then that's great. I'll live in my own little delusional world that they'll even pay attention to it.
No.
But
I don't think it's that delusional. I feel like it's a realistic dream. And like, speaking of dreams and vision and stuff, when you first, started all this a couple of years ago, where did you hope or anticipate it would go, and how does that match to the reality of it now?
I certainly didn't think that 18 months later we'd be nearly topping 100,000 readers. I find that a bit crazy. I certainly didn't think that we were launching, and we'll talk about this in just a second. We were launching a new magazine, spun off from the main gaming. I think I said earlier that I definitely had awards in my head as a kind of natural evolution. I'm not sure we necessarily have thought of that year 1, year 2 kind of project. I think that might have been a 3 or 4 project. But it just, yeah, I mean, it just across the board, from players to the industry to groups such as devcom and other people that are just sort of taking the time to sort of listen to us and respect what we're doing and give me the chance to sort of annoy people by coming on and just droning on about sort of queer games. I think it's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, look, are we at the point that I thought we'd be at 18 months later? No. I think we're ahead in that sense. Have we fallen behind anywhere? Yeah, on live events. We had a lovely program of live events planned for 2020, which didn't happen. Because I had my first ever press pass to E3 that I didn't get to go to. So thanks for that. I was really looking forward to that.
There'll be an online event, no worries. Same thing.
Oh yeah, true. Save the flight cost. We had an amazing Pride series around the UK, going to different cities when they celebrated their Pride, to be there and have a kind of gaming presence so people could play some games and hang out. That was always that was happening. That got sort of trimmed and then culled completely. We had Gaming Live, which we did in 2019, which I was super proud of in London. We had really big plans for 2020, and that's not happened. But I can reveal, why not, that we are planning a Gaming Live 2021 in the UK. So I'm looking forward to how we sort of shape that up and what that's going to look like. And I mentioned it a minute ago, actually, and in 2 weeks' time, at devcom, I'll be sitting on a panel somewhere in this environment, no doubt, sort of saying, and it's live. We're literally launching a spin-off website called Industry Gaming, which is industrygaming.com. And that is, we'd always planned for gaming to have an element of the industry news built into it. And we're really inspired by spotlight interviews to lift up and celebrate queer people in the industry, and also inspire people coming into the industry. I really do feel like the games industry, I think we can all agree now, but is very quite unfairly is still has a kind of reputation of being a bit of an old white boys club, which obviously the 3 people sat on this panel, I'm certainly not old and white. That sort of shows that we're more than that. But through our spotlight interviews, I wanted to make sure that we were highlighting people in the industry, so people would look at it and go, oh, if they're in the industry, I can be in the industry. And I think that's really important. But particularly over the past sort of 6 to 12 months, through discussions in forums like this with devcom, with GDC in the US, with other people that are based all around the world, it suddenly became quite apparent that there is a demand for specific content to inspire and inform LGBT people in the industry. And there's only so much of that we can do through gaming, that until it becomes uncomfortably sort of out of kilter with what consumers are interested in. So instead, we are spinning the industry section off into a whole separate existence, which will then form its own brand. We've already partnered with the wonderful Aardvark Swift recruitment company as an official corporate sponsor, and they're not only providing us with funds to help it work, but also are also putting a job board on the site, so people can come and find some jobs through industry gaming. We've got some other announcements that I can't say about other corporate sponsors that are on board. We also have slots left for corporate sponsors, so I'm just throwing this out into the corporate world, the people that are listening, the powerful decision-making people that are listening to this stream. But seriously, if it's picking up on what Dom was saying about the Raise the Pledge initiative, it is, and this is a bit tub thumping, and I apologize, but it is getting behind in things like devcom, things like this fantastic Call for Change summit, things like industry gaming. I think putting money where mouth is actually sort of it's an old way of doing it, but I think done authentically, it's a way that can really affect change and really kind of raise up the company profile, because we only are going to invest it back into the running of the company, and it enables us to put on things like part of Gaming Live in 2021 is going to be an industry conference. One of the days is going to be industry led, and that's going to be Europe's first LGBTQ video game industry conference, with panels and experts and whatever else talking more about this thing that we've been talking about for the past hour or so, and hopefully people aren't that bored yet. But much more entertaining, much less of me. And I think that's going to be something to sort of really look forward to.
I think what I really like about what you guys do, especially when it comes to like the sponsorship side, is that you have like a clear sort of vision for where you want to get to, and you can say, here's where we want to get to, and here's what limits us from getting there. And if you jump in here, you're going to help us get here. Where I think a lot of I think a lot of groups kind of, ask you for sponsorship or for funding, but they don't really have a clear vision of what they want to achieve with that funding. It's just kind of, well, for us to run, we need sponsorship. Trying to get to, and what can we help you achieve that you're not able to achieve unless we help. So I think that's such a great model.
Absolutely, and I very much subscribe. This is going to sound like a weird link, but I'm a huge James Bond fan, and I very much subscribe to the Albert R. Broccoli kind of thing of putting every penny on the screen. I do really subscribe to that, and I hope that people will see that come the Gaming Awards, even though it's a stream, even though it's something that we're sort of a little bit technically perhaps restricted by. I really hope that we see that Deborah's having a small crisis. I think
the cat. I heard a meow, but I think the cat has
I did hear a meow,
camera or the webcam. I don't know.
Well, I suspect a cat got caught in the works.
Sorry, it was the cat. He was here, and then everything got unplugged somehow. But I'm back.
Cats are evil.
I hope that people understand and they see that. Look, we are a corporate company. We do need money to exist, but we're not. We always wanted to make sure that the people benefiting, the players, or the industry people, or the people that we're serving. And I think the LGBT community as a whole deserves that. And I think we are the first people to admit the fact that the LGBT community is excluded from a lot of this. There are many gaming events that queer people go to that they just do not feel comfortable at. And if we did Gaming Live in 2019, which was a week-long activity, series of activities in London that included some fantastic things like drag shows, writers' panels that sort of taught people that were interested in how to start writing for video games. I had a party night. We partnered up with Gamers Inc. in London to do some promotional work for one of our sponsors there. So we really did kind of like stretch ourselves into all these different little facets, and just make sure that people are having a good time in a safe environment. And I think that not only it's something I definitely want to continue for gaming for the consumer side, but then also on the industry side. Honestly, I'm going to be honest, and I apologize. I'm probably going to offend some people at this point, but the topic that keeps going round, present company accepted, the topic that I spent the last year sitting on this chair in my office with my flag in the background, looking down a lens, talking on panels, and it's the same topic whenever there's like, oh, Robin, can you come and talk about LGBT games? Sure. What are we talking about? How do we improve LGBT representation in game and in the industry? And it's the same topic over and over and over. And it's like, that's why actually I love the fact that DevCom are doing the Call for Change Summit in a couple of weeks' time, because it's time for change. It's time to we've done the talking. We spent a year of doing anything but talking on Zoom calls and stuff. And it really is like, how do we actually genuinely move the needle? And I think that's a kind of target that I've got for the Industry Gaming Conference in October of this year. I've just given the date away. Later this and somewhere allegedly. And if the target of that is like, if I even see that on the agenda, I'm just going to delete it there and then, because we've had that conversation. We're beyond that. I feel like we're beyond that conversation. And I think gaming is leading the way on getting out of that conversation really as well. So I want to have panels about how do we write an authentic character. I want to have panels about what does the future hold? Like, where are we going? We're at this point. We keep talking about how do we do that. I do think that, sort of circling back actually to the first question you ever asked me, Deb, is like, what do you think the last year's been like? I think we've just done that. We have got LGBT representation in game. I think we have got LGBT representation in the industry. The UK diversity census that came out this time last year-ish, I think now, that said 21% of the UK video game population identifies as LGBTQ. That is amazing to start off with. It completely validates what we're doing with gaming and industry gaming. I suspect that figure would probably be reflected in the European market and the US market, because I do think that the games world is a weird sort of mash of technical / artistry. So you always have to sort of factor in the kind of like the more artistic sort of bent that a lot of people sort of would have, and the way that sort of drives the younger population that's coming through the games world. And I think all of that combined is like we've kind of reached the point of how we get more LGBT representation in games and in the industry. We're here. We're doing this. What's the next step? Where's the next 5-10 years looking at? And I'm really inspired to sort of start looking at some of those questions with that conference. But yeah, definitely. Please come spend some money with us. We do good things with it.
I just have one question, because you were talking about safer space and community, and I was actually wondering if you, I mean, I'm surely had to handle like with comments that are not so respectful and not so more like hateful. So how did you manage to actually create a safer space in your magazine, like to be still welcoming? How do you respond to those messages without being angry? But yeah,
we just delete them. I don't even give them oxygen. Just literally just snuff it out and just ignore it. Yeah, literally. Yeah. We've got a really strong comment moderation system built into the site, and even the first whiff of homophobia, transphobia, any kind of phobia, just deleted, gone, ignored. And I think some people might say like that's not educational. Some people might say like we should be learning people. I say we don't. Honestly, we do that enough in our lives. We all three of us, I'm sure, in various ways, we sort of have our sort of moments where we have to sort of like explain something to someone, or we have to do this, or we have to do that, or even existing is challenging some people. And I think it's like I didn't want this space to sort of devolve into a place that people could come and think they could have really technical debates. Just delete them. You don't need. I genuinely feel actually, I part of me actually thinks, and somebody had actually just raised this in the chat about the Kotaku comment section. Quite right. I don't know why. I don't know why we need comment sections. Like,
I was gonna just delete them then. Fine. I mean, to be honest, I really like your approach. I really like that you just delete those messages, because maybe because your is not about education. It's not on that aspect. It's not the purpose of this of what you're doing is not to actually educate people who perceive different people from them as being a threat. It's not the place, and I totally agree, and I'm really happy about that you do that, so that I feel when I go there kind of safer, that I don't have to read those comments, because actually I do read them on Facebook and Instagram, because I sometimes it's horrible, but I want to see what is out there that I don't see sometimes, and I'm like, this is what people think, and it's which is also very harmful.
It's risky though, because it's not genuinely what people think. Some of it is what people think, but you fall into the trap a little bit, I think, of the power of anonymity of people sat behind screens and never actually seeing that. They'll never they'd never say that comment to your face. And
I think it really depends on the type of content you're putting out there and whether it merits a discussion. Like if you're saying I'm creating a safe space for people, if you would like to be part of the space, then you're welcome. but like you don't go into a space that you don't want to be part of just to trash it. Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah,
You know,
that's it, exactly.
where
No, totally.
if it's
And
a
trust me,
conversation to
we
be
get
had, then great, have comments. You know,
absolutely. We get a lot. Like it's the system that we have is actively swatting as we speak, I'm sure. But it's but you just literally put in sort of like we honestly actually don't set out to actually produce much, if any, contentious articles. That's not our thing. We are not we're not deliberately kind of sort of trying to spike people to sort of like come at us sort of thing. If I wanted to do that, I'd have set up something that would be far more contentious, far more sort of the worst we ever get really is on Facebook, on the sort of the paid ads that roll around on Facebook, and it makes me laugh every single time, because I know that people commenting like, why am I seeing this shit on my Facebook? Yeah, I'm not. This is ridiculous, etc. And I feel like replying to them like, you know that by replying to an LGBT ad, you're telling Facebook that you really like LGBT ads, so you're gonna see more. If you just ignore us and let us get on with our lives,
you're gonna get more.
It'll go away. But seriously, people that sort of like put angry faces, the algorithms on social media are designed to measure interactions. If you interact with something, you're telling the system you want to see more of that. So please, honestly, I love it. Like, keep commenting, because you're gonna see more, and it's gonna annoy you even more.
It's hilarious. Yeah, maybe Facebook will, surreptitiously actually change hearts and minds because people are clicking on the ads, like trying to vent.
No, sadly, I think Facebook's not going to be that, not sort of going to be a savior tool, I have to admit.
That's hilarious. Oh gosh. Well, we have like a few minutes. Was there anything specific you wanted to let people know about what they might hear about when they join your panel at the summit?
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate thing is that the micro talk I'm giving is actually called about the world of gaming, which is a talk about everything that we're doing at gaming. So if you've heard this, sorry, skip my talk. It's going to be the same. So this was basically a spoiler. I probably should have said that right back at the start. But no, there will be a point where we sort of say like, industry gaming is now launched, hooray, and the popper goes off or whatever. And people can go and check it out and do wonderful things. In the meantime, go and check out industrygaming.com, gaming with a Y, where there's at least a sign up form on there, and a big countdown to keep my brain focused on the fact it's launching in 2 and a bit weeks time. Nice. But yeah, but no, seriously, if you've sat here and listened to me waffle on throughout all of this, go and make a cup of tea, have a fantastic half hour, go and do something lovely on Friday that's not listening to me talk again, because I would unfortunately be saying exactly what I've just said. I'm going to challenge myself now. I will try and find something different to talk about that I haven't talked about already. Oh no, I can talk about the winners of the awards.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the awards will have come out. So okay, don't watch the awards then, because otherwise you're still not going to get anything new. Don't watch anything and come and watch me talk, or watch everything and go and put the washing on or something while I'm talking. But do I think I can say this, Rufina? Do come to the fireside chat.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm hosting a fireside chat with Don't Nod, and talking about Tell Me Why. So that's
very excited.
Ridiculously excited for that. I've got some fantastic questions. Obviously, by that point, we'll know, or they'll know, whether they've won or not in various categories for the Gaming Awards. So we can talk a little bit about that. But we can dig into some of the things we've been talking about earlier in this little panel, about how the sort of the steps they took to sort of think about creating their trans character, and the work they put in it, and other such wonderful things. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. Come to that. Don't come to my talk, but come to the fireside chat.
I was very curious about. I'm happy to learn about your conference that you're doing in October. Is it going to be online? Is it going to be physical?
Allegedly October.
Yeah, I know. I also remember October.
Stop saying October.
I don't know which year. No, I'm really happy about this. I think it's really good because I never really wanted to go to such conferences. I never really felt comfortable, especially when they were happening in the normal like setup like GDC or other like Gamescom. I don't know. I always felt why should I be there? And like
it's the tokenizing, isn't it? It's that whole I was at Develop in 2019 and they do an LGBT roundtable and on the any organization doing anything to sort of like boost up LGBT people in the industry is great. I'm not poo-pooing any of it. What I am poo-pooing is maybe the kind of tokenistic, and again, it comes back to that topic of how do you do more LGBT games? How do you get more representation? It's the same topic. It's literally the same topic going round and round and round for 2 years. And I think if we can find ways of moving that needle forward and actually taking up good action on moving this forward, I think it'd be really interesting. And I think that's why. But again, I understand how these things work. You've got 45 minutes in a much broader program of talks and whatever else. So you kind of just got to jump in and go, well, that's the queer topic done with. Whereas I think this time it's going to give us a day pretty much by the time we got all the programming sorted, and a sort of mixture of those sort of fireside chats, whether it's a future game that might have come out by then. We've been able to sort of get hold of people to come and have a chat with us about it, whether it's panels of, and I think the ability that we're going to have is to be a lot more nuanced. So there will be a panel particularly relating to sort of trans players and trans workers, and it's going to give us an opportunity to really get into some of the more deeper conversations that even as lovely as this has been, this has only really scratched the surface again. And I think that we're going to do something really, really powerful, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm saying October, and I'll be honest, we are saying October. We think, well, we're led to believe that by then we might be okay. I mean, an asteroid might have rocked up or something, but we're just going to keep going with the assumption that we are going to be fine. So we're saying October because there is something more magical about doing this sort of thing in person. Plus, I'm just so bored of these four walls of this office. And I do want to just get back out and just be with people again. But there will be, obviously, we're gonna film all the panels and stuff and put it onto YouTube or Twitch or somewhere. So there will be a virtual way of coming to the conference as well for people that aren't traveling, can't travel, underwater, on fire, or whatever else might have happened by then as well.
Yeah. Who knows? On another planet. Maybe by then the Mars rockets will have gone.
Or we just split in half or something, or I don't know, put all the Trump supporters and Brexiteers on one half of the planet and cut it off or something.
Oh gosh.
2021, let's go.
Well, in any case, whatever format is going to be, whatever is online, physical, I'm really looking forward. Whatever date is going to be, whatever year is going to be.
Definitely.
I'm really happy for that.
I mean, we've already sort of spoken softly about this, but we are going to be looking for sort of partners in deliveries with some of the panels as well. So I'm really excited to sort of say that, like, obviously we're starting early conversations with DevCom to sort of bring you guys over to sort of host one element of the conference, and obviously opportunities exist for other organizations out there to sort of come and take part as well. I'm always one for a plug, so
I mean, it's what is also what you were saying at the beginning of this discussion about, it's about lifting up, lifting up each other. So
Absolutely.
It's not for the call for change. It's not something that we envision to be only for us. It has to be also present and lifting other conferences. We have to share the resources. We have to share the knowledge. We're not going to get out of this, or we're not going to change without helping each other and without sharing. So for us, it was, makes sense. So
absolutely, it's vitally important, as you say, that that there can't be any kind of silo working on this. There can't be any this company's doing a great job, but we're not going to tell you how.
Exactly.
Because it's just like, why bother? Why are we even engaging in this kind of like pettiness? But yeah, so it's
There's
like
no point
unlike
precious
I think
ownership,
unlike other
right?
parts of the sorry. Sorry,
Oh,
Deborah,
no, go
I
ahead.
missed that. Okay, but no, yeah, it's something that we're really proud of, to sort of like be bringing in with partners, whether that's corporate partners or other organizations and stuff. And there's no borders, there's no boundaries, there's no kind of gatekeeping of like, this is our thing, leave us like this. That's our sort of like, it's benefiting everyone. I did an interview when we first started gaming that sort of said that somebody asked me a question about well, what would happen if other magazines started writing about queer content? And I was like, well, I think that's a great thing. And I'd say that my job
That's
here is
actually
done.
what we're pushing for.
I shall move on to solving world peace or something. And I think it's do you know what I mean? It's dumb. It's such a dumb question to sort of say like, well, what happens if someone else does that? And it's like, good, really, really good. I'm excited by the fact that Pink News, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, I think they say they're the biggest, apologies, queer magazines out there, have just employed a full-time games writer. That's brilliant. I'm really happy for them. And I'm really happy for the person they've employed, because it's one of my best freelancers, or was one of my best freelancers. I'm not bitter. It's fine. He's a good friend. But together, it's like, they're going to do something. We're going to do our thing. The more that people celebrate queer games, the more that people want to find out about it. And there shouldn't be this sort of competition. And it's uplifting, as you say, it's uplifting everything. It's uplifting everyone. And I think that we can all find a space in there.
I like this idea that there's a monopoly on a cause. You know, it's like, no, this is my cause, so it can't be your cause. Like, well, actually, the more people's cause it is, the more the cause will actually move forward. It's a good thing.
I'm not naming names, but we can all sit here and think of groups in the video game world, to do with different diversity groups. There are multiples of whether that's females, or whether it's POC, or whether it's that, and we all know that they all get a little bit tetchy sometimes when the other one steps on the toes of what they're doing. And I just think it's hilarious. Like I'm all for sort of protecting your work, but when your work is uplifting, if another organization is equally uplifting, that's inherently a good thing for everyone. So
I think I'm seeing that a lot now with like the space that I'm working in, where I was maybe an early mover and now there's a lot of people doing similar stuff. And I think the knee-jerk reaction is to be like, wait a minute, there's competition out there. And then you're like, wait, no, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Because you care about this thing. And if other people care about it too, that's a good thing. You know?
Absolutely. Look, I joke about it, but I shan't lie that when I found that Pink News wanted to employ a gaming person, and one of my writers, I was a little bit grumpy for maybe an hour, because it's like professionally you do sort of think like, oh, someone's moving onto my turf, but you sort of take a step back and go, actually, this is a good thing. This is inherently a good thing. And they're going to come at it in the way that they come at it, and we do what we do. There's not going to be a crossover. Pink News are fantastic. But they are incredibly mainstream, and they do some fantastic, and they do huge work for the community. But gaming does what gaming does. We are the ones that sort of take a real deep dive into indie games. We take a deep dive. We have other sort of we're gaming plus, really. We're gaming plus sort of queer geekery. So we also sort of take a dive into manga and anime and comics and merchandise and other sort of lifestyle stuff, and run events and those sort of things. It's like, I know for a fact, with the greatest love, that Pink News are not going to start doing that, because they don't have, it just would be imbalanced in the output of their one magazine. It's like somebody filling a newspaper with games content. We just wouldn't work. But we can do that because we're dedicated to that. So that's great. You know what I mean? Like we all uplift each other. Like if the world wants to read more, if the world is inspired to read more queer video game content, we're all ready and willing to put that out there. And yeah, I was only angry for about 45 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I almost think it's like the last thing I'll say on this. I think it's almost like a version of imposter syndrome that hits you, where you think that, you know, the reason that, you know, say Gaming Magazine is successful is not because it's well written and it's talking about relevant things and the people behind it really care, but it's because it's actually representing this group, or it's just representing this or this cause, and that's something that anybody can duplicate, you know.
Yeah.
When really it's like it's almost like a version of imposter syndrome, where it's like it's not about the people who are running it and the why they're doing it and the way they're doing it. It's just because they belong to this group. So the same way that, you know, if there's a Black person working at a company and they've always been the only Black person working at the company,
Yeah.
if then the gate starts to open for more Black people to work at the company, it's like, oh, well, you know, am I good because I was the only Black person, or am I good because I'm good? And I think that is like a really weird, like form of imposter syndrome that I think is like starting to seep in.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
because
I think a lot of people
becoming
get
more
used to
diverse,
being perhaps even the only gay person that's working in a company, or the only queer person that works in a company. And then you find out they've hired someone else, and then it becomes this kind of like sort of clucking around the water cooler, kind of checking each other out, and sort of like trying to position yourself like I'm the senior gay, and it's sort of like it gets ugly. But
and that's such like a weird.
I love it.
It's very strange, very strange. So I wonder. I feel like probably a lot of people, especially now, are feeling symptoms of that. It's like it's just a new version of something that people might have felt in different ways before. So yeah, it's super interesting to me.
Yeah. Cool.
I need to think.
Anyways,
I'm not sure I want to be the senior gay. That's my conclusion.
I was going to use the phrase dominant gay, but that would go in a horrible direction that I'm not going into at 5:30 on a Wednesday.
I was gonna okay. I'm not gonna comment on that.
Well, Nicholas
any questions
told us
from,
that we can
the
have an hour
audience
or an hour and a half.
section?
We've taken an hour and 45. So
Yes, surprised. I'm surprised. I didn't thought we will make that long.
No, me neither. I am also surprised, but I think it just goes to show that. It's been a really great conversation. I've loved every minute of it. So
likewise, it was super cool.
No, thank you for the invite, and I'm really, really excited to sort of keep going. And obviously the Call for Change Summit, a little shout out again at the end in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's going to be an amazing couple of days, and the Gayming Awards in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks today, in about 2 hours and 20 minutes. So still got a lot to do.
Do you have a countdown? I mean, it sounds like you have a countdown. Like
it's a sort of mental tick that I've sort of developed, that I can just always I just stop and I can tell how long it is to the awards. But yeah, I think once that's over, that will free up my life a little bit. So
I'm looking forward to, I'm gonna be watching the stream. I'm really looking forward to that. I was like saying already, like on our private conversation, that I'm already listening to your podcast and watching your stream. So please, I
completely
keep doing
forgot
them.
about the podcast. That's another thing. That's another thing I do. We have our podcast here on Twitch, twitch.tv/gamingmag. Go and check it out. It's a fortnightly, occasionally, because we occasionally sort of jump over different dates, and we occasionally have one weeklies or something, but we're horribly unreliable. But no, we launched our podcast November 2019ish, which was an audio podcast that ran for about 20 odd episodes, and then when we were getting ready to go on to Twitch and sort of getting Twitch warmed up ready for the awards, the sort of idea pinged off that actually, you know what, it might be more interesting to actually have 3 people sat on a screen together, talking for an hour or so. So yeah, it's me plus my wonderful co-host Mia, and we're joined each episode by a special guest that's normally a streamer, because they've got, as I say, interesting stories to tell about their communities. But sometimes other people that are from the industry or from our writing pool or whoever. But no, we love our little podcast actually. So thank you for plugging the podcast, because I miserably failed to plug my own podcast.
All right, shall we kind of go toward the end? Shall we say no?
Yep.
It's almost dead now. Well, thank you once again for both of you for taking time, for being with us, for sharing the stories and personal also like experiences and stuff. Looking forward to have you, Robin, to the summit. Looking forward to the awards. Deborah, always a pleasure. I'm sure we're gonna have some calls and also the GameDev Show, always pleasure to watch and listen. Thank you to the audience, to the listeners, and what else to say?
Thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you all, and talk to you all very soon. And be safe. Take care.
You too.
Stay awesome and queer. No, I shouldn't
Stay
say
indoors.
that.